Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, here with the next round of 30 Years' War. This is, I believe, this is episode number 3 of the 30 Years' War. We're on to Gustavus Adolphus. Is that how you pronounce it? Gustavus Adolphus. Breitenfeld. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this stuff wrong. I apologize. But yes, so we have the Catholics basically versus the Protestants right now, and the Catholics are kicking butt. The Protestants, they came close, they had some momentum going, and they just couldn't make it. And then they had some kind of a treaty thing, but it really doesn't. On the Danes, doesn't really do anything bad for the Danes. I mean, all they have to do is kind of stay out of the war, pretty much. But I mean, they could easily go back on that because apparently, the Kingdom of Sweden is gonna step in apparently and come south, and show their might. This will be completely new to me because I'm not sure if I've ever seen Sweden in a war, like on a video, or were they neutral? The world wars, weren't they like neutral and all that? Maybe not neutral, but they really didn't play like a big role, did they? I'm sorry if I'm wrong here, but I don't really remember Sweden when it comes to wars. They're not really brought up. So this will be really interesting because that'll be very new to me, and yeah, we're gonna see, the might of Sweden and see what they got. So that's gonna be interesting, and they're gonna come. Apparently, obviously they can't really go north, so they're gonna come south. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Danes join their side. I think there's some kind of maybe a little rivalry between the two, but maybe when it comes to this war, when it comes to kind of religion, they might put their differences aside just for the time being to kind of like take on the Catholics. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So yeah, it looks like this is going to be like one big battle here, apparently. I'm guessing this is going to be one big battle. This is Breitenfeld, 1631. So that's like one place, right? Breitenfeld's, a place, right? A town, city, something like that, right? So anyways, this is going to be really interesting. Once again, thank you guys for the support in the comments and all that good stuff. Please hit that like and subscribe, guys, if you haven't yet. You guys are amazing. And I just want to give a quick shout out to my daughter. It's her birthday today, and she's one of my biggest supporters. She is so proud of Daddy, and she thinks me being on YouTube is like the coolest thing ever. So just maybe if she's ever watching this, happy birthday, sweetie. I love you. She likes sometimes playing my videos in the background. She's my biggest fan, so I just giving her a quick shout out, and then we're gonna be on to the video. All right. And she's 7 years old. All right, happy birthday, happy 7. All right. And yeah, let's get to the video. Like I said, please hit that like and subscribe. All right. Oh, just a quick heads up. I know you guys get mad at me, but probably won't be posting videos tomorrow. Just saying, usually once a week or once every couple of weeks, I kind of take a day off because usually I'm kind of busy doing stuff. So just a heads up, please don't hurt me. But anyways, yes, let's jump to it, guys. Kings and Generals, guys, great content. Subscribe to them as well. All right, I think I've covered everything. I think we're good. Hope you guys are having a great day. All right.
Shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Learn more about Squarespace and their offer at the end of the video. In our previous video, we covered the Danish portion of the 30 Years' War. In his capacity as the Duke of Holstein, Christian IV of Denmark had intervened on behalf of the Protestant cause, but was defeated. However, Albrecht von Wallenstein had failed in his attempts to construct an imperial fleet in the Baltic Sea and to capture the city of Stralsund, which Sweden had then garrisoned. In this episode, the conflict will intensify further into a full-scale European war with the invasion of King Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden.
Yeah!
Denmark's rising neighbour, Sweden, had become increasingly concerned by the empire's situation during the 1620s. Indeed, Sweden had already undertaken a small intervention in the defence of Stralsund in the summer of 1628. Denmark's defeat at Wallenstein's hands and Spain's continuing Dutch war had raised the spectre of a joint Catholic campaign of economic.
I'm just kind of like, hold on a second. I'm just trying to like take a moment, just kind of like see, check out the landscape here. Where everything is at. So I know you guys kind of pointed out in the comments that, like the ones kind of like highlighted here are just like the bigger, more important ones, but there's like a lot of like little provinces and stuff all in this, but they're pretty much just highlighting the more important ones, So yeah. Anyways, yeah, I just kind of
Dutch war had raised the spectre of a joint Catholic campaign of economic warfare in the Baltics. The Swedes feared that Ferdinand would ally with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, whose ruler, Sigismund III, had a claim to the Swedish throne. The King of Sweden, Gustavus II Adolphus, had been in constant conflict with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth ever since he took the throne in 1611, and was largely successful, especially in the War of 1626 to 1629. The Truce of Altmark between the two sides was signed in 1629. It, being negotiated by French diplomats, stipulated that the Swedes would receive the right to 2/3 of all shipping tolls at Polish-Lithuanian ports until 1635, which helped finance Sweden's war effort substantially. Though the armies fighting for Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand II had won victories at Lutter and Wolgast, the pressures and costs of maintaining such a large army were beginning to mount. The emperor had chosen to rule by decree, which didn't help his popularity with the princes of the empire. So in summer of 1630, the Diet of Regensburg was convened in an attempt to placate the regional princes. Notably, the rulers of Brandenburg and Saxony did not attend in protest of the Edict of Restitution. This diet only made the situation worse, as the electors who hated Albrecht von Wallenstein forced Ferdinand to dismiss him, and he retired to his Bohemian estates. The imperial army was also massively downsized in order to reduce costs, with the Count of Thiel being reinstated as supreme commander of the imperial army, as well as the Catholic League army. It created a massive power vacuum, along with alienating the Protestant princes further. The emperor sacrificed Wallenstein and became weaker domestically to retain the Edict of Restitution, but this encouraged external powers to join the conflict. In early June of 1630, Gustavus Adolphus published a manifesto detailing the advance of imperial forces to the Baltic, the treatment of Swedish delegates, and imperial aggression against the Swedish Stralsund garrison as reasons for the intervention. On June 26th, he started his campaign against Ferdinand by landing on the island of Usedom off the Pomeranian coast, with a modest force of 14,000 soldiers. After disembarking his army, Adolphus marched to Stettin and told the Duke of Pomerania, Bogislav XIV, who was childless, that Pomerania was his by right of conquest. On August 25th, the beset Duke accepted the Treaty of Stettin, which allowed Sweden to effectively annex the region. However, the new territory was too small and poor to sustain a large army, and the invaders struggled to break out of the imperial cordon. Throughout the rest of 1630, repeated unsuccessful attempts to punch through the imperial troops, commanded by Torquato Conti, were made at Mecklenburg in the west and along the Oder in the east. This lackluster start from the Swedes would inspire a false confidence in Ferdinand II that was soon to be tested. Another problem was soon to arise for Ferdinand. France, a fellow Catholic nation under its first minister, Cardinal Richelieu. The French were concerned about the growing power of their old Habsburg rivals and sought to deplete their strength by any means necessary. The Treaty of Barvalde in January of 1631 obliged Sweden to maintain an army of at least 36,000 troops in the German conflict, while France paid 400,000 thalers per year in subsidies to Sweden to assist in its upkeep.
Oh, wow. Okay. You need some help now.
Still, the leading Lutheran German princes, the electors of Saxony and Brandenburg, would not form an alliance with the Swedes, who were initially viewed as an unwelcome foreign presence. Instead, on April 12, 1631, they issued the Leipzig Manifesto, and this agreement became a Protestant defensive alliance against any who might endanger them, Sweden or the Emperor. 40,000 troops would be raised for the cause, an action sanctioned by many of the moderate Catholics who understood the desire for safety. In Pomerania, the swelling army of Gustavus Adolphus now numbered 30,000 men. The Protestant princes who had met at Leipzig now had no interest in an alliance with Sweden, so the king had to undertake a forceful approach to woo them. To this end, the newly reinforced Swedish army advanced south into Brandenburg in April 16.
So, like, the Protestant princes, they just didn't like to, that there's like an outsider, someone coming in to their land, but that could easily help them out and has a nice sized army. I guess that's just religion and politics kind of taking place. Be it the French are sending them over money. It's like, obviously, we can't have, something that's not complicated. Well, I kind of know what's going on. Anyways, back to it.
The newly reinforced Swedish army advanced south into Brandenburg in April 1631, capturing and sacking the towns of Kustrin and Frankfurt an der Oder, which were defended by imperial garrisons. Though he had begun to make slow progress, it was far too little and far too late for the only significant Swedish ally thus far, the city of Magdeburg, which had declared for Sweden in mid-1630. Reinforcements brought to the city's siege by the Count of Thiel eventually managed to enter the city on the 20th of May, 1631. What followed was the single most horrific massacre of the entire.
I just want to say, Tilly just took these guys out again. Like, he's just mowing people over right now, man. I wonder if we're gonna have a clash here. Having like, who's his name? Gustavus, Adolphus. I wonder if these two, I want these two to go at it. I think that'd be pretty cool.
What followed was the single most horrific massacre of the entire 30 Years' War.
Okay.
The flames claimed many lives, but more notorious was the conduct of the mercenary soldiers. Despite Thiel's orders to stop, the mercenaries who weren't paid on time enacted brutal violence on the unfortunate inhabitants of Magdeburg. A census taken the next year showed that out of the roughly 25,000 inhabitants before the sack, only 449 remained.
Whoa.
Magdeburg had been utterly annihilated, and the news circulated all over.
I was just about to say that, like, that news had to have spread apart, and then an uprising against them has to start taking place. Obviously that's probably exactly what they're about to say right now, but you need you need the people to love you, to support you, so when you travel, you get help and people want to help your cause and may join the fight. You don't want people to rally against you. You want people to be for you.
Germany and Europe, shocking and outraging Protestants. To annihilated, and the news circulated all over Germany and Europe, shocking and outraging Protestants.
Here we go.
To the east, Gustavus Adolphus massed a 26,000-strong force outside the Electoral Palace in Berlin and forced George William of Brandenburg to ally with him. The Catholic butchery at Magdeburg, as well as a desire to keep pressure on Ferdinand, also convinced John George I, Elector of Saxony, to join Sweden's cause, bringing 18,000 troops with him. With his new allies and new forces, the Swedish king was now eager to push for a decisive blow, convinced a victory would make other German Protestants join him.
Do it.
Meanwhile, Thiel was also eager to pursue the offensive, and his masters believed that only a clear victory would deter others from joining the invader. The first great battle of the Swedish intervention was about to take place.
Leipzig. Is that from like Napoleon? Is that the same place or just the same kind of name? Isn't that? Or just a similar name? I swear that name is familiar from like the Napoleonic Wars, from like the Battle of Leipzig. Is that the same place or just like the same kind of name? Just curious.
The first great battle of the Swedish intervention was about to take place. Thiel's army, which was advancing to meet the Swedes, dispatched smaller parties which engaged in skirmishes with them, and the Swedes apparently got the better of these encounters. Gustavus crossed the Elbe at Wittenberg and moved south to join with his German allies. Finally, the two sides converged on a broad plain near the village of Breitenfeld in September of 1631.
Alright.
Now we must take a moment to discuss the army and state which engaged at Breitenfeld on that day in 1631 and its illustrious leader. Since 1397, the three ancient Nordic kingdoms had been ruled by Denmark, but Sweden broke away in 1523 and elected Gustav Vasa as their king, beginning the Vasa dynasty. After a dynastic crisis, Charles IX became king, dying in 1611 and being succeeded by his son, Gustav II Adolf, otherwise known as Gustavus Adolphus. When this happened, the coffers were almost empty, the population was on the verge of rebellion, and the army was lax. The military failures of Sweden at this time were exemplified in the Battle of Kirkholm during 1605, when its army was annihilated by a Polish-Lithuanian force one-third its size.
Yeah.
Conscription had taken place in Sweden for decades, but it was poorly administered. Gustavus Adolphus established and enforced guidelines for recruitment, while the realm was divided up into 8 military districts from which a permanently established army would be raised. Intensive training and drill routines made this system greatly successful, and foreigners marveled at how mere farmers' lads could be turned into disciplined soldiers.
Nice.
Increased firepower was a key priority for Gustavus Adolphus, who realized that it was the key to victory and was required to compensate for the inferiority of Swedish cavalry. Infantry squadrons maintained the central pike block flanked by musketeers, but with a higher proportion of muskets compared to pikes. Formations were also shallower and broader, bringing more firepower to bear on the enemy. The countermarch was also drilled into the soldiers, during which the front rank would fire a volley and then march through the gaps to the rear to reload, followed by the second rank, and so on.
Hey, isn't that basically this came before like the Napoleonic Wars and like the British and stuff, right? Because isn't that what they did now, like in the what's it called, like, you know, like the French British Wars and the like the American Revolution, you know, the British and didn't this like ended up becoming like how like wars were fought, you know? Because I swear, like I've seen a bunch of movies, you know, where you have first line volley and then they step back, second line comes in volley. Like, is this where it started from, or is this a little bit different than what ends up you know, coming to play in Europe, you know, in the all these Europe battles, because that's basically how it ends up becoming, right? Like this is before all that, right? So you have to let me know in the comments below, if this is, if Sweden kind of like invented this way of fighting, or maybe it was already like this, but I don't know. I'm just saying, Do-do-do.
Then march through the gaps to the rear to reload, followed by the second rank, and so on. Doubling the files was also a new tactic developed by the king, during which the rear ranks would step into the gaps used for the countermarch in order to deliver a devastating salvo.
Huh.
In addition to the infantry changes, batteries of 4 light 3-pounder artillery pieces were attached to Swedish regiments. They were maneuverable above all else in order to go where they were needed on the battlefield, compared to the heavy cannons which had to stay where they were.
Interesting. So Sweden,
I think it drives me knowing that there's not as many women in IT. It just pushes me harder. So.
Good job, Sweden.
The Protestant army, led by Swedish King Gustavus Adolphus, consisted of around 42,000 troops. 24,000 Swedish veteran soldiers were joined by 18,000 under the Elector of Saxony, but were kept separate. The Swedes were organised into 7 infantry brigades in 2 lines, commanded by Gustavus Adolphus himself. They had 51 field artillery pieces, supported by a battery of 4 state-of-the-art mobile bronze-cast 3-pounder light guns attached to each infantry regiment. Opposite them were the Imperials under Johann Zerklaas Graf von Thiel, who had 35,000 men under his command, of whom 7,000 had just completed an exhausting march from the south. Their infantry was organised into 12 large tertios, grouped in threes, and with 2 further battalions on each flank to support the cavalry. The Imperials had 27 field artillery pieces, likely of a heavier calibre than those of the Swedes. Around midday, the battle began with a thunderous 2-hour-long exchange of artillery fire between the two sides. In addition to their numerical superiority in number of guns, the Swedes demonstrated fantastic efficiency, firing 3 to 5 volleys for each Imperial volley. The deeper and more densely packed Imperial tertios suffered especially badly from this bombardment.
Wow.
When the bombardment ceased, 4,000 Imperial Black Cuirassiers on Thiel's left wing charged without orders, commanded by Gottfried zu Pappenheim.
What?
Repeated attacks were made on the position of Field Marshal Johann Banner's Swedish cavalry, but to little effect. The small musketeer companies between each squadron of horse fired at point-blank range as the Imperial cavalry charged, disrupting them, blunting the attack, and allowing their own cavalry to countercharge with an advantage.
Man, Thiel must be peed off right now, man. Like, it already looks like, here we start off like he's outgunned, and I forget what the numbers were, but you send your guy just runs with his cavalry. The cavalry has no support. So, I mean, I'm sure these guys can probably turn and shoot their way. I mean, I don't know like how far this battlefield is stretched out, but what a big mistake. Like these guys just like aching like to die, or just the leader just wanted maybe he wanted some fame or whatnot, and just thought maybe he could take them, or maybe he just got tired of the bombardment of the artillery. I'm not sure, but it seems like a giant mistake, And Thiel back here, man, he's got to be shaking his head, Anyways.
Attack and allowing their own cavalry to countercharge with an advantage. After the 7th attempt to break his wing had failed, Banner sallied forth with his Finnish light cavalry and Swedish heavy cavalry, smashing the depleted Imperial horse and forcing it to flee the field.
Wow.
During this action, the main infantry force under Thiel had remained stationary. However, a subsequent cavalry charge on the Imperial right wing by another 4,000 Catholic League and Croat horse under von Fürstenberg crashed into the Saxon cavalry guarding this area of the battlefield. Seeing an opportunity, Thiel then ordered his tercios to advance in an oblique order formation, diagonally and to the right. By doing this, he sought to concentrate his assault on the untrained Saxon infantry on the Protestants' left flank, refusing to engage the Swedes for now. This worked out, and the entire Saxon force routed in front of them, leaving the Swedish flank exposed.
So, why didn't, like, when these guys were pushing this way, you know, I was surprised. Why didn't they just, like, try and push over them, maybe flank them and come from behind here, maybe? Or maybe because of the terrain, they didn't see them until, like, too late, maybe? But damn, man, like, that's a huge force, man. And these guys are kind of, like, untrained and, you know, very little experience, so, man, they're just going to get wiped out, it looks like. Jeez.
Routed in front of them, leaving the Swedish flank exposed. Marshal Gustav Horn, who commanded this threatened area of the Swedish line, quickly and orderly pulled back before the unwieldy tercios could regroup and change direction, as they were busy plundering the Saxon baggage or pursuing fleeing soldiers. He then launched a counterattack with his reorganized cavalry forces. During this counterattack, the engaged infantry regiments pivoted and concentrated their new high firepower tactics and their accompanying 3-pounder artillery pieces on the tercios threatening their left and repelled the imperial attack.
Oh my god.
At the same time, the victorious cavalry of Banner, now commanded directly by their king Gustavus Adolphus, swept across the front line and attacked the now lightly defended imperial left. This assault managed to achieve its aim of capturing the stationary imperial cannon, which were then turned by the Swedes and used to attack their owners.
What?
Marshal Lennart Torstensson, commanding the Swedish field artillery, also maneuvered his lighter, more flexible guns into position and pummeled the Imperials as well, hitting them from both sides.
These guys must be like shell-shocked or something, man. Like, the Swedes are like kicking butt right now, man. Like, first of all, the cavalry one knocks them down, and then they have to wear, and then their orders to kind of break to the side, and then they have their guns going, their cannons going. These guys are getting blown away. And it just seems like these guys are just like hunkered down and not moving right now, man. Look, and they got surrounded. They got, you know, their own cannons shooting down on them now, and then these guys need to run, man. They're getting wiped out. This is a slaughter right now. Slaughter.
Position and pummeled the Imperials as well, hitting them from both sides. After a few hours of this withering firepower, the Imperial forces finally collapsed, and Pappenheim, as well as Thiel himself, were both wounded. 7,600 Imperial soldiers were killed, and a further 6,000 were captured.
I think it goes without saying, the King of the North, Gustavus Adolphus, is kicking butt, man. Kicking butt and taking name. I think Thiel took him way too lightly, man. But but then again, I don't think so, because he knew not to attack the Swedes directly, and they went to try and flank them. But damn, like, he definitely underestimated the Swedes. They're definitely.
Catholic army had been utterly annihilated by the Swedish and their Saxon allies, and had to be completely rebuilt from scratch. While
Man, it was hard for the Sweden king to actually get like support from the Protestants in the area. This has got to kind of like show them all that the Swedish king is not to be taken lightly, and a force to be reckoned with, and people can rally around that. So it'd be interested to see if they actually do right now, because they were very iffy before.
Swedish and their Saxon allies, and had to be completely rebuilt from scratch, while the victory convinced many wavering Protestant princes to join the victors, swelling their army. After so many Catholic victories in the early years of the war, it seemed as though the Protestant cause was on the rise. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Squarespace gives people a powerful and beautiful online platform for which to create your website.
Wow, what a battle. or wasn't really much of a battle because the Swedes kicked butt. Uh, wow. I, you know that the Catholics are not going to take them lightly anymore. Like they're going to be peed off, and they're going to be trying to rally their troops to get another army together. I mean, Teal got away from there, barely. He was hurt, but he got away. He knows what to expect next time. But wow, man, Gustavus, man, showing his might, man, and his guns, man. He has smaller guns, but they were more. He's able to move them a lot more and around the battlefield. They had some range to them and had some accuracy with them, so he had some more modern tactics apparently. With the whole like volley, backup volley, and so that uh, that was. I'm assuming that was new and that was just invented. I'm assuming that like I'm not like I said I'm not sure. I mean maybe the French and the British have already been doing that kind of style. I'm not sure, but from how they told it, it was a new thing. And if that's the case, man, good job, Swedes. But anyways, guys, I hope you liked this video. Please hit that like and subscribe. And yeah, very interesting stuff. The Catholics had it going last video. Now the Protestants have it going this video. It'll be interesting to see what happens next. I'm assuming like the Catholics who are kind of like were taking everyone lightly, and were in like a huge rush maybe to get a bigger army because it looked like everything was going so well, and they had the confidence, too much confidence, and now they're like, like we really need to take these guys seriously and maybe see if they build up uh, a bigger army, and of course the Protestants, they're going to have a big army because everyone's rallying around the King of Sweden. So we'll see what happens next, guys. We'll see what happens next, but definitely an amazing battle, man. It looked like they just annihilated them. It didn't look like they took many losses. So, anyways, guys, peace. Thank you guys for watching once again. Another great video here by Kings and Generals. And what do we got going? What do we got going on next? Lutzen 1632. Don't know what that. I guess that's just another battle. Another different location, another battle. So it's only one battle. So, like I said, are like the Catholics gonna like rise up here and like really put it to them next one, or is like the King of the North here gonna be like, I'm here to stay? But anyways, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in future videos. And awesome stuff. Peace. And yeah, not much more to say. I'm out of here. Thank you for watching. You guys are awesome. Love you.